Hi, I'm Neil and welcome to another video. In today's video, I thought it'd be really useful just to talk you through what is in my camera bag. Now, I've already made up what is in my camera bag video earlier this year, but that video was specifically for destination weddings, and it was also when I was still shooting Sony and Nikon at the same time, which was really not ideal. So I'm now, thankfully, as of around a month ago, solely shooting Sony cameras. I now have two Sony A9s. So what I thought would be useful is to make another video where I talk you through what is in my bag. So I'm going to start off by just showing you the bag itself. It's a Pro Tactic 450AW backpack. Now personally, I love backpacks. I just find them much easier and more convenient than say shoulder bags or roller bags. Once it goes on your shoulder like this, you really don't feel the weight. This is a particularly good one as well in terms of its design. It has this shell on the top, which when you open just this section, you can have quick access to a camera, which is handy if you want to be working quickly, especially if you're outside and you want to actually open the full bag. This has a couple of pockets on the side where you can put things. There's also another pocket here where you can get quick access to things should you need them. It's just a very well thought out design. But the main thing I want to talk about with the bag is obviously what's inside it. So this now, which has been brilliant for me, allows me to take virtually all of my equipment that I actively use on a wedding day in one bag. I do still have a second bag because there are things that I still will take with me on a wedding day which I can't fit into this bag in itself. But the majority now of everything that I need is in this one place. Before I went fully Sony, I basically had two camera bags because I was needing to take so many lenses with me because I was shooting with two different systems. But now it's all condensed more or less into this one bag, which is proving to be really helpful. So I'm just going to open up the bag. Again, what I like is that it opens from the back, which I just find to be a much nicer way of opening the bag rather than most traditional backpacks, which will open from the front. So the whole back just opens up. Now the first thing to show is that I have my 15-inch MacBook in here. Now I don't often, to be honest, keep it in this bag, but I do now tend to take it with me to weddings so that I can download images during the wedding breakfast if I have time to do that. It just allows me to get a bit of a quick start, if you like, on the call, which I found to be very productive in terms of my workflow. So I can put my laptop in here, and certainly extremely useful for destination weddings. The other thing to mention about this bag is that it is sized so that it will fit as your carry-on luggage on, I'm sure, most airlines. Certainly I've never had an issue with this. It's designed for that reason. The images are saved onto this little portable SanDisk hard drive. Now this is brilliant as well because this is an SSD drive and that means it's really fast. But the biggest thing about this little hard drive is its size. It's just so small, you can put it in this compartment really easily. So that's the SSD drive and the laptop together with obviously the cable. A couple of batteries in this section. When I've used up the batteries or anything that I've used, whether it be batteries or memory cards, they go into here. But I'm not going to focus too much on that. This obviously space for batteries, cleaning cloths, memory cards in here as well. But the main thing I actually want to talk to you about is actually what's in the bag itself. So as I mentioned, I now have two Sony A9s, which has been such a relief after spending so long shooting Sony mirrorless, the A9, and my Nikon D810 DSLRs. So now everything is Sony, which I say has just been brilliant. I'm going to make a dedicated video about how I found the first year of using the Sony A9 for wedding photography. Spoiler, I loved it. I absolutely adore this camera. It is not perfect. I want to make that clear. There are things which I've found over the course of the past 12 months or so which are not ideal, but the cons are vastly outweighed by the pros. So overall, this camera has revolutionized, I would say, the way that I work, and I absolutely love it. The downside of the A9 is it is eye-wateringly expensive, and that's one of the reasons, the main reason it took me a while to go fully A2 A9s, if you like, because it's just a very expensive camera. But the advantages that it gives you, certainly for wedding photography, are huge, and I don't regret in any way ever buying into this camera. So this is my first A9. This has the Sony FE 1.8 85mm lens attached to it. Now this lens is just incredible. It is so small and light, but the quality from it is just amazing. Now it's only 1.8, it will be even better obviously as a 1.4 lens, but to be honest, I don't really have an issue with that. I much prefer a smaller, lighter 85mm lens that focuses so well than something bigger, which would give me a little bit of a wider aperture. So yeah, this lens has been brilliant for me. No regrets at all, would highly recommend it. So I say this is the Sony FE 1.8 85mm, and as I'm talking now, so you're looking at images on the screen which are taken with this lens. It just gives really nice results, but the biggest advantages for me are the fact that it's so small, so light, relatively inexpensive as well, but again focuses blazingly quickly and just gives brilliant results. So yeah, I've loved using that lens. So that's the first A9 with the 85mm attached. Second A9 goes in here. So I don't have a lens on this one. Due to the way that the bag works and the spaces, I can't, well I probably could if I rearranged everything, but I just had to keep this one in without a lens. Now the next lens which I'm going to talk about is the Samyang 35mm 1.4. Now this is amazing. I don't know how this lens can be this good for such a small price. The last video that I made was all about the 35mm lens in general, the focal length being my favourite focal length for wedding photography, and this lens has been my favourite of the 35mm lenses which I've used. It is crazy to me how it is so cheap. Now I know that Sony are about to bring out a 35mm 1.8, and a few people have asked me whether I'll be looking to buy that lens, and the answer is no, purely because I don't have any issues whatsoever with this lens, and I don't really see anything that I'm missing or that can really be improved upon. This lens is just crazy good in my opinion. It's brilliant for focus, it works so well with eye focus, and I really can't really fault it in any way. It's maybe slightly on the big size for a 35mm lens. I'm not sure how it will compare size-wise to certainly the new Sony 1.8 which is coming out, but I say for me, this has been a phenomenal lens, and the price is an absolute steal. It's just, I don't understand how it is so cheap, to be honest. So yeah, that's the 35mm. Then this is my newest lens, which I bought alongside the new A9, and this is the Sony G Master 16 to 35mm 2.8 lens. Now I haven't really used this very much at the moment. It seems brilliant. Now this lens to me is not going to be one that I use all that often, but I think there's always a time and a place where you may need something wider than a 35mm. Obviously for group shots, for dancing, certainly the dance floor I like to shoot quite wide if possible, for maybe scene setting shots. So I wanted something that was wider. My options were this, the 16 to 35 or maybe the 24mm, but I just thought, bearing in mind I'm not going to use either of this lens all that much, I might as well go for something that's going to give me quite a lot of width if I need to. Ironically, for a lens that I'm probably not going to use all that much, it's the most expensive lens which I own, but it will come in, I'm sure it will. But yeah, I've only used it a few times, but I've had no issues with it whatsoever. Which you'd expect really for a G Master lens, because it is expensive. I'm sure the quality will be excellent, but that I say, it's not a lens that I'm going to use all that often. As I mentioned in my previous videos, the lenses which I use by far the most are the 35mm, which I have on this camera here, and the 85mm on this side, and that's what I use for 90% of a wedding day. The rest will be made up of the 16-35 and the 135. Now this is the Sigma 1.8 135mm lens, and if I was to have any regrets about any of the lenses that I have bought already, it would probably be this one. Now the reason I bought this is because it was quite cheap, in comparison to other 135 options. Now the results that I've had from it have been excellent. It's a little bit slow to focus, that's its weakness, and I think compared to the Sony it's probably quite cumbersome, but I say price wise it's far cheaper. Now I'm someone who doesn't use a lens like this very often. As I just mentioned, a 35mm, the 85mm are what I use for virtually the whole day. This lens will come in for the odd time where maybe I need a little bit more reach. So maybe during a ceremony, if I'm at the back of a church, or the odd time where there's maybe a particular scene or composition which I think a 135 could really utilise, but it's not a lens I use all that often. Now when I do use it, it's been brilliant. It's a little bit slow to focus, but the actual results have been really good. I've got no qualms about them. The downside, as I say, is the size of it. It is a beast of a lens. By far the biggest lens that I own, so if you put the lens hood on, it's massive. Certainly massive if you compare it to something like the 85mm, which you can see here. So it's huge in comparison, and that to me is its massive downside. So whether I'd recommend this, I certainly would recommend it on the quality of the images, but in terms of actually having it in your bag, then maybe it's something you certainly want to look into a little bit more, because I say it's big and it's heavy. What I say, it's cheap, and it's a lens that I don't use all that often, so it doesn't matter to me too much. Now I do have one other lens in my bag, and it's a bit more of an out there lens, a bit more of a crazy choice, and it is the Helios 44-2. Now this is a bit of a bizarre choice. It's a very difficult lens to use because it's fully manual, but in the right situation, and that situation is when the sun is very, very low in the sky, the results that this can give are crazy good. It is the absolute best lens that I know of for flare. Now, most modern lenses seem to try to reduce the amount of flare that you get when you're shooting into the sun, which is something that I think is a bit of a shame, because I love flare. I want more flare in my images. This is a beast when it comes, if you like having flare, sun flare in your shots, this is the best lens that I know of. Even though it's so cheap, you have to buy them off eBay, and I think there's different, it's hit or miss about how good the quality of these lenses are. I think they're originally from Russia. Not sure how old it is. It's probably been in many, many photographers' bags, this one. Probably like 5th, 6th, 7th hand by now. But it's a brilliant lens in the right circumstances. So again, it's not a lens which I'm going to use all that often, but when the sun is low, this is beautiful for portraits. So 5 lenses, I'm really only using 2 of them very often. The rest of my bag is made up of speed lights. Now, again, in the last video and in previous videos, you've probably seen me using my Nikon speed lights with my Photic Strato triggers, which I have loved. I now, because I'm now shooting completely Sony, use Godox, and I have 3 V86011. Now these are basically just standard speed lights. They are pretty basic, but what I love about these is the fact that I no longer need the receiver on the speed light. It's all built into the speed light, which is brilliant, more so than anything, so that I don't have to have the receivers, which obviously gives me more space in my bag. So I have 3 of these speed lights in here, each of which have on them the MagMod Grids. Obviously, as you'll know from watching my channel, I love MagMod and I use their modifiers virtually all the time when I use an off-camera flash. So every flash, every speed light has a grip on there. So 3 of those. Let's just talk to you about the triggers. I have 2 triggers in my bag. One is the Godox XPro-S, which is really cool, it's nice. I have an issue with it in terms of how quickly, if you're using a multi-speed light setup, which often I am doing on the dance floor and for speeches, I don't find it very user-friendly to turn off individual speed lights. I have to press a button, rotate the wheel, press another button, and it's just a bit too faffy. But thankfully, there is a better alternative. which is this one, the Flashpoint R2 Pro 2. Oh, such complicated names. And what I love about this trigger in comparison to the XPro-S is that it's such a simple thing, but it's massive to me, that if I want to turn off a particular speed light, so if I have 3 speed lights, say, one is A, one is B, and one is C, and I want to turn off A, all I now have to do is double tap on the A button here, and that speed light is off. If I want to turn it back on, double tap again. And that simple thing means that this trigger is far, far better, in my opinion, for the way that I work than the XPro-S. I take them both because they're all really small, just in case. But I say this one seems to fit the bill for me in terms of a trigger. Still nowhere near as really user-friendly as the Photic Stratos, but they offer big advantages that they offer high-speed sync, and that has been really useful to me. The only other things really in my bag are modifiers from MagMod. So I have 2 of their snoots, which are excellent if you really want to narrow the spread of light coming from your speed lights. And then second one, as well as that, I have more modifiers. I have 3 gels, or 3 gel holders rather, for creative portraits. Again, I'll put some on the screen now so you can see some examples where I've used those. And also my favorite MagMod modifier, the grids. So I have 3 grids as well in the bag, for the 3 speed lights obviously. The only other thing which I have in here, MagMod related, is a wallet which has more gels in there. I say I'm a big fan of using gels. Then the only other thing left in the bag is my little section of toys, where I have my crystals and various bits of glass, again for creative portraits. So again, if anyone would like me to do one, I could maybe make a dedicated video about why and how I use these various pieces of glass. This one you've seen before. This one gives some really cool effects. Again, I'll put on the screen some of the shots which I've taken with these as I'm talking. But yeah, various bits of glass that over time, when you're just playing around, just experimenting, you get to learn what can work well at various times. I don't use them very often, I must admit, but again, like with the Helios lens, that is a time and a place, and when you do come across that right time and place, you can get really cool effects from them. The other thing just to mention, as I touched on at the beginning, as I say, is that I do take other things with me to a wedding day. I can't fit everything that I want into this bag. So the things that I can't fit in there are things like my camera strap. I use a Holdfast Moneymaker camera strap. Obviously light stands go separately. I also have a Godox AD200 speed light, which is a more powerful, larger speed light, which doesn't fit in the bag. The majority of speed light work which I'm using, the vast majority, say I'm using now the V860s, because it's rare that I'm trying to use off-camera flash in bright light. Usually when I'm using off-camera flash, it's towards the end of the day when the ambient light is low, so these give me more than enough power for what I need. I do have an AD200 which comes with me to weddings, but it's just in a separate bag. But really, I say the vast majority of everything I use now fits in here, which has been brilliant. And I've really enjoyed the 3 or 4 weddings which I've shot where I've been solely shooting Sony. It's made everything easier, especially the editing. And as I say, especially if anyone would like one, I do intend to make a video all about my first year of using the A9 and using mirrorless cameras, because I did make one at the time when I first started using it, and I stand by everything that I said in that video, but I now have obviously much more experience with using the A9, and I think it would just be useful to talk you through what I found to be the biggest advantages and the odd disadvantage as well. Anyway, I hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions at all about anything that I've spoken about, then please do let me know in the comments. But yeah, thank you very much again for watching, and I will see you next time.